Hello, and welcome to Between the Lessons. I'm Susan.
And I'm Kavan.
And today we're going to talk about our childhoods, which we've talked about before, but we're going to talk about our childhoods and upbringing as far as how it's impacted us as adults. We have a certain awareness today that we didn't have when we were younger, and we're going to share how we are navigating this awareness, both personally and professionally. Are you ready?
Let's go.
Okay, so we are going to start with you, as we usually do, we normally do, and we are going to start with our childhoods. So just share a little bit about what you remember as far as your childhood is concerned.
I came from a stereotypical nuclear family from the 80s. My parents met in college, and they moved to New York to start a family. And I'm the oldest, and I have a younger brother that's 3 years younger than me. We moved out of the city when I was young and landed in at the time, a sleepy commuter town just north of New York City. It was a pretty predominantly white neighborhood, very few people of color or even Asians in general. So a lot of my childhood memories are surrounding a core of Asian families that were in the area that we would consistently get together. I think it was immigrant families, certainly bonding and sharing the transition into American life, and found comfort in having dinners or weekend mahjong parties or going down to Chinatown to go grocery shopping every weekend, and having dim sum or dinner. I think I have shared in the past that I've had a complex childhood. At the same time, I'm very grateful for my childhood. Actually, the town that I grew up in, it is quite an anomaly, as in it was seriously a crossroads of socioeconomic diversity.
Okay.
And even though it wasn't racially diverse, there were so many walks of life there. But as a kid, you don't recognize that. But in retrospect, I got an exposure to so many different ethnicities, religions, lifestyles that I truly appreciate now. I think for Asian immigrants, we wanted to follow the pattern of assimilation, being a melting pot, blending in. But I think, as an adult now, we were not a melting pot. We were certainly a salad bowl, I would say, as in we stood out. Even though that we wanted to assimilate to the community, the white culture, for me, I definitely stood out. I had a very unique name, and again, like I mentioned, one of very few kids of color. So it was really hard in trying to balance two worlds. Certainly my world at school, and then coming home and then having parents speaking to you in Cantonese, and trying to hold on to your heritage. So there was a lot of conflict for me as a child, because I did not want to stand out. All I wanted to do was play shortstop for the New York Yankees. But I was reminded daily that I was different.
It was different, yeah.
And then unable to articulate that to your parents.
Yeah.
And having, heritage and celebrations and these, like I said, like these family gatherings in Chinese. And then as I got older, I wanted to disassociate myself with that because it made me stand out. So it was hard, because my parents were raising me as best they could in the way that they only knew.
That they know.
and from what they had learned from their culture and their family dynamic. And all I wanted to be was American. How about you?
Similar in a lot of ways. My family's Korean, and my parents met and married here. My mother came on a nurse's visa, and my father came for grad school, to business school, and they barely knew each other when they married. Yes.
Just your hair on the right side, it's just sticking out.
Okay. Thank you.
Do
Is that better?
Now it's better.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right there.
Okay.
Now pull the right side in. Yeah, like that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you keep going.
So they met, married here. So my parents only knew each other a month before they got married.
Wow.
And they, they both came for the American dream. They had been through the Korean War as very young children. They knew the opportunities were in America. They believed in the American dream. They were the first ones in their families to come over. They were the catalyst for why the rest of their families came over. They brought a lot of people over. But they really believed in the American dream, and but they didn't. So interesting. But they didn't know, and they certainly were not prepared to raise American children, which essentially we were. And so similarly, I grew up in a suburb outside of New York City, in Long Island. Mostly, my elementary school was mostly Jewish kids, and my immediate neighborhood was mostly Jewish kids. I thought the whole world was Jewish, even though my weekends told me something else. But I was so, immersed in that. And I loved my elementary school, and I loved my friends in elementary school. It was such a close-knit group. And then when we went to middle and high school, I realized that the world was not Jewish. And not only was the world not Jewish, people hated Jewish people. That became very clear very quickly. On top of all the racism and sexism, homophobia, and all of the other stuff. But so yeah, I would say in my elementary school, and we've talked about this before, as much as I was there was one other Asian kid in my class in elementary school. It didn't leave me feeling so alienated. Elementary school was actually a really a safe place for me, because my home life was so chaotic. My parents, like I said, they didn't know each other, and they didn't know how to communicate. They are, both very strong-willed people. My father has passed since, and what I remember a lot of my childhood, my parents also had a contingent of there are 10 Korean families. We got together every month. We went to a Korean church. So my parents were very much still connected to Korean communities. We had family live nearby, which was great. I think certainly it was important for them, and it was great for me and my sisters. But my parents fought a lot. Sometimes it did get violent. It wasn't horrifically violent. I don't know what that means. If there's a spectrum, well, there is a spectrum. But, sometimes it did get violent. It was very scary for me, and I don't totally want to speak for my sisters, but I will say I think it was very, very scary for all of us. It was, and it was, the house I grew up in was just full of fear and anger. And that, and you sort of just grow up, and you just, as a young child, as a young girl, I don't know that you think it's normal, but you certainly don't know what to do. You don't know anything else except what you see on TV or at your friend's house. And it very much feels like your reality at home is definitely not their reality. So there's that. And I think, and then on top of it was just especially going into middle and high school, the race difference, the ethnic difference, being one of maybe 3 Asians at the school, you feel that too. And I think, feeling that different can leave you feeling very isolated and alone. And so it was just a lot to grapple with when I was younger. And I think it was, hang on. Gene, the sound is so weird.
What's wrong with it?
It's going in and out of our
Yeah.
headphones. Like, it's not stable. Now it is.
Now it is.
Okay.
Did you see anything?
I just kind of pushed something in. I didn't see anything. No.
Okay. So, okay. It's okay. So, say again?
Stop for like 3 seconds just so we get a little bit of space to cut in between
Okay.
the editing,
Yeah.
and then go.
So I think just being different can feel really isolating, and I think it led for me to feel alone at times. And so I think I was grappling with a lot as a young girl, but I didn't really know what I was grappling with. I just think I just knew I felt different. I felt alone. I felt like my house was unsafe, but I didn't have the language for it, which I think is such an interesting experience, where you're just where you're just experiencing something, but you don't know what it is. And I think a lot of young people, a lot of young kids go through that. And I mean, when we spoke with Rianne, she talked a lot about naming those things. And I do think naming those things are so important, because then you can make sense of them. And if you can make sense of them, then you can I think you just end up navigating it differently. But when you don't have a sense of it, you're just sort of experiencing it. And then also it's sort of informing how you're growing and developing and understanding. I just think it can really have quite an impact on you. And I know it did for me. I mean, it really took me very many years to get through, to deal with a lot of that stuff.
I connect with what you're saying about being alone. My parents were certainly blue collar or, middle class. My dad worked in the garment district. My mom worked for the school. And my dad worked 6 out of the 7 days a week, so he was gone a lot. He was always working during my childhood, and I appreciate that a lot now, because he was, certainly trying to support the family. So, in a sense, my mom raised my brother and I by herself, right? And I've shared some of the dynamics of my upbringing with my parents, and my relationship with my mom had not been the greatest. But, as I'm older now and a father, a parent myself, I really appreciated what my mom did. Shout out to my mom. And, she did the best she could. And like you said, like, she was raising Asian boys in America. And, for us, we just wanted to be American, my brother and I.
Yeah.
But she did the best she could, because she had to care for us while my dad was working 6 out of the 7 days a week. And there was many times I did feel alone.
Yeah.
We were latchkey kids, so I was responsible for making sure that, my brother and I got home safe after school. Spent a lot of time alone at home while they were working. But like you mentioned, I didn't have the words to articulate how the conflict I was having with my identity, or the conflict I was having living two worlds, an Asian world, a Chinese world, and an American world. I didn't have the words to articulate the type of person I wanted to be, what made me happy, what didn't make me happy, and I was just obedient.
Yeah.
I was doing everything that my parents would tell me to do. And there was a sense of loneliness there, because I had basically an identity crisis, right? And I couldn't share with them what I was going through at school.
Yeah.
I was getting made fun of for A, B, and C, or isolated. And they didn't have the skills as parents to ask, either.
Right.
You know, that's not the type of culture that they were raised in.
Absolutely.
You know, especially, you know, my dad, you know, pretty much grew up on the streets of Hong Kong, and my mom was the oldest of 8, raising all of her siblings while her parents were working all the time, and in extreme poverty. So, you know, they didn't have the skills to ask what I needed or what I was feeling.
Yeah, it's right, because you're like being in America, providing a home, good neighborhood, you're getting an education, you have a roof over your head, there's food in the fridge. Like it's like that's enough. And I think that was the extent, because I think they didn't have that. So it's just like, oh my gosh, you have all these material things. How is that not enough? And so there is something to be said, you know, when you don't have that, of course, that is a really scary and very difficult way to live. I mean, you know, especially when you think about you're just trying to survive. And then, but once you do have those things, there is more. And, you know, when I think about my parents, I think about that. I definitely know that they sacrificed a lot, and they wanted the best for us. They wanted the best for me, for sure. But they just, you know, could not emotionally give it. And I think that was very hard for me growing up, where you know, you do have these sort of identity crisis situations, or you feel like an outsider and you feel so different. And then I think also just lacking safety at home as well. My father was the only boy in his family of like, he had 3 sisters. So he was, and he came from, you know, until the communists came into North Korea, was treated in a rather precious way. So he really didn't have the capability, and also for Korean men at that time, they just were not connecting. They just did not connect to their children emotionally. He was a very serious man. He was a very, for me, he was a very scary man. And, you know, when he would lose his temper, it was, you know, it felt like it was insane. He would scream and shout. He would, you know, I mean, certainly things would be slammed and thrown. To be quite, I remember one time he tried to like light the TV on fire. It was like so insane. Yeah, it was, you know, and another time he would, you know, just my mother would have to run out of the house sometimes, you know, just because it was just escalating so much. And I just remember one time he was like, "Where is she? I'm going to kill her," you know? And my sister was like, if you kill her, you're going to go to jail for the rest of your life. And he was like, "I don't care." And, you know, for little girls to be hearing that is like so scary and mortifying. But I also know it was really hard for him to be in America, you know, as a man, as an immigrant man. You know, this is another culture. He was not treated with the same respect and regard as he would have been treated in Korea. So I know that was really frustrating. And, you know, he only had daughters. He didn't have sons. And in the culture that he grew up in, that was not great. You know, you're supposed to have a son. So I know he felt really frustrated at the very least. I mean, that's just what I can gather, because he never said anything to me, because there was I remember very, very little communication between us. I just felt like he just did not know how to communicate. And I should say with me, because I think he did have a different relationship with my older sister, and maybe even my younger sister, but that's my recollection of him, you know. So it was, you know, so it's just like, how do I, you know, so to grow up with that was just really hard.
Have you and your family, your mom, processed this the past?
So, I mean, my mom talks about it now to a certain degree. She does talk about how hard it was with my father. You know, she definitely says that it was a very hard marriage. It was miserable at times, but for her, there were times that she wanted to divorce him. And she said one time she did go to see a lawyer. They went to a lawyer to get a divorce, and he told her that if you divorce me, I will leave America. I'll go back to Korea and you'll never hear from me again. And for my mother, you know, for her generation, you know, that means she would be in America with 3 children that she would have to take care of, and 3 young children at the time. And the stigma of divorce was almost, for her, I think, was worse. She would be totally ostracized from the Korean community, you know, and her from her family as well as the church, and, you know, from other families. So it was, you know, too big of an ask, and she just cannot, you know, so she chose otherwise. So I think, you know, she knows that, but she also understands who her husband was. Like, she knows that he felt very frustrated. You know, she knows that he had good intentions, but just had this really bad temper. So I think in that way, you know, she doesn't look at him like in a binary of like good, bad. You know, she knows he was a complicated man who had like good traits and then also struggled in other areas as well. So we do talk about it. I think we're still talking about it. It's still a continuous conversation. Yeah. Sorry, I just unloaded a lot.
No, I appreciate you being vulnerable and sharing it. Yeah. It's, you know, our childhood shapes who we are. Yeah. You know, and who we become either as, you know, our own identity as a professional, as parents as well. And, you know, I think back to, you know, the parenting style that my parents have and try to reflect on, you know, certainly the love that they shared with me and the ways that they provided their love to me, and how, you know, how I am as a parent, as a father. I think that, you know, as much as I certainly appreciate and respect all the love that, or the opportunity and access my parents provided me, the thing that was the void was the emotional support. Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of stereotypical for a lot of Asian families. Yeah. But that was something that I was intentional to make sure that I was there for my kid. Yeah.
You knew you wanted something else for Kellen.
Right. I mean, as I got older in middle school and then high school, I remember my mom always saying, "Why you hang out with so many of your friends' families? Mm-hmm. Why don't you have your own family? You should be, you know, hanging out at home more." Mm-hmm. And I mean, I couldn't articulate at the time, but what I was looking for was a connection with my parents, and I saw that modeled from my friends. Yeah. That they created this environment at their home that was welcoming. Yeah. You know, and there was, you know, physical touch and hugs and, you know, and words of affirmation and love. Mm-hmm. That was certainly not in my household. Mm-hmm. So it's like I always said, like my house, like I felt like my house was a museum. Mm-hmm. It was cold. Mm-hmm. It was always clean, mm-hmm. and everything was in its right spot. But the environment, the feeling wasn't there, and that's what I was desperately looking for.
Absolutely, same.
So I you know, I as I got older and, you know, becoming a teenager, I became more rebellious, mm-hmm. and, you know, as my parents as my mom wanted to come closer in the way that she only knew how was, I don't know, judging me. You know, like I think it's like the you know they express their love by pointing out things that you need to improve on. Yeah. And that just pushed me away more.
Of course, yeah.
Right. And I wasn't the student that they hoped I could. They wanted me to be. Yeah. I was into hip hop and R&B, mm-hmm. music that they didn't really understand. Mm-hmm. I loved to play sports and sports that they didn't understand. So I was the kid that always was dropped off at a game or practice, but my parents were not stayed.
Yeah.
You know, so it created a larger disconnect and a gap in our relationship as I got older and older, and until it literally blew up probably like junior or senior year in high school, where I didn't want to be there. I wanted to run away because I just did not connect with my family, and which confused my brother a lot. We've talked about it since, and he was like the perfect child.
Yeah. Does he know that? Does he feel like that?
Yes, but at the same time, he struggled too because he realized that to make peace, I needed to be obedient. But then his personality identity was suffocated.
Yeah.
It wasn't allowed to develop as well. And seeing that my mom, for him to watch my mom and I fight so much, like explosive, like we're the same exact person.
Yeah.
We are the same exact person.
And this was when you were in high school.
Yeah.
It's just like these explosive fights. Because
my God.
she wanted you to be at home, do it X, Y, and Z, and you're like, I want to be out with my friends. I want to play sports, and I just kept butting heads.
Yeah, I didn't want to play piano. I didn't want to do the things that she's asked me to do. Go to Chinese school. Yeah, no, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm done.
So how did that always play out? Like, so you guys you ultimately got your way. It sounds like. I mean, I say that very like.
I got my way because I didn't run away when it was in high school, but when I went to college, I ran away.
Yeah.
I went as far as I could because I just didn't want to be around my mom anymore because of probably is more of the embarrassment. Like I think about now, it's like I felt guilty that I could not be the son that she hoped I could be.
Oh, you think that's why versus
a little
pursuing
bit.
yourself?
A little bit because like it was like she was choosing the schools for me, my major for me, based off of like the limited knowledge she knew of me. To be honest with you, it's like, oh, you're good at talking, you should be a lawyer. Or
they'll be like, you fold your shirt nice, you should be a lawyer.
Or you have an interest in physical therapy, so you should
be a doctor.
Yes, right. But they didn't really know who I was. They never took the time to ask. Yep. And then when I tried to share who I was, then it was like a switch where all of a sudden I'm learning about her life.
Yeah.
So I was like, wait, I thought we were talking about me.
Yeah.
And now it's all about you and your upbringing and the sacrifices you made for your family. And then all of a sudden it's like, wait, you're not hearing me. And that's been the struggle since.
Not hearing you, not seeing you, certainly not feeling you.
Right.
Yeah.
So then I just didn't want to talk anymore. And I just I probably spent more time talking to my friends' parents because they wanted to know who I was. So like I physically ran away when I went to college and distanced myself, which was, I didn't realize how much that hurt my dad. And I didn't realize how much that hurt my brother. Like I rarely called home because I just didn't want to talk to my mom because she didn't see me.
How do you know it hurt them? You talk to them later on about it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Or they're the ones that called me and said, hey, you should call mom.
I see. So she was hurt too, I'm sure. But yeah, it's interesting as you get older, certainly after high school, when you have more agency in your life, what choices you make based on what your childhood was like. I mean, I think, I think similar to your younger brother, I felt so much like I was, I had to make myself small. It's not even that. I almost feel like I had to, makes me a little bit emotional, make myself not invisible, not small, but I would say somewhere in that school, because like I said, my house was unsafe, and I felt like when you grow up in a house like that, when it's so unpredictable and the parents are so consumed with like each other and just chaos, like they don't have the bandwidth to see you. My parents just did not. I mean, first of all, it wasn't part of their understanding to see a child. I'm sure that they were not seen as well. Certainly my mother. And so I like learned as I was growing up to, you know, it's either you be perfect and you do what they say, you know, because you want to feel worthy and valuable, and also as far as safety is concerned, you don't want to do anything that's going to upset them, because then, you know, the house might explode again. So I would just sort of, you know, find hiding spaces and retreat and not say anything, whatever it was, you know, where you sort of just like compromise yourself over again. And then you know, you have to like undo that years later. But I mean, when I went to LA for graduate school, you know, because I went to college in New York, and then in my 20s, I was just out and just, I mean, I was working a lot, but I was also partying a lot and going out and doing a lot. But yeah, I mean, I think, you know, leaving New York, going so far away was about, I need to figure stuff out on my own. And this dynamic and this family still feels like so heavy. And so like, I can't figure it out here in these confines, you know, in this dynamic still, you know. And I think you do need some independence from it in order to figure it out. I think for me, that's really when I was able to start finding myself. I mean, I'd started therapy before I'd gone out there, but I think once I had gotten a sense of myself, you know, it's just a better, I think it just was more helpful to finding like a path to healing, you know, because it can't just be on your parents' terms. It can't just be, you know, what they want. It has to be on your terms as well. So, yeah.
I'm just realizing you and I have actually similar paths in needing that independence. Like, so when I went to college, went to Chicago, you know, even like in my dynamics of my best friends in school, and like, you know, elementary through high school, I was, you know, I have a good group of friends, and we still hang out every year. They're like my brothers too. And but when we were all growing up, I was the quiet kid. All right, I was the sensitive kid, and in high school they had much larger personalities than I did, and so I was kind of the wallflower. You know, it's like, oh, you know, we go to parties. It's like, hey, what's up? Blah, 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 to all of my buddies, and and there's Kavan, right?
Yeah, I know.
But it took me to go to college, I'll move away from all of them, to really start finding my own voice. So like in combination of my, you know, upbringing in school and my upbringing at home, you know, and then having that independence of who are you, it actually made me start thinking about my Asian identity again, because I had pushed that aside through high school because I didn't want to stand out. But then when I got to college, I was like, wait, this is really who I am, and these are the things and traditions that I truly appreciate. And then when I became a teacher too, and then, you know, certainly like from my upbringing, recognizing, you know, what type of culture and connections I want to make with my students, and creating that safe and brave space in my classroom, and to celebrate identities and honoring identities and perspectives. I'm like, wait, I need to share more about my Asian heritage too. So like my evolution of a person, my evolution of an Asian, you know, American, really started when I left everything.
Even though you were growing up in it.
Exactly.
Yeah, where you rejected it. And
exactly.
rebelling against it all. Yeah, the irony.
Yeah.
I think like when I think about going into like becoming a teacher and professionally, it wasn't so much about, I mean, certainly my Asian identity was important, but I think more deeply, I mean, becoming a teacher was so healing for me, because in high school especially, I felt so unseen and invisible. Not just like, you know, certainly as an Asian person, as a Korean person, like in media, in our textbooks and history, all of that, for sure. You know, because the racism was definitely there, the ignorance was definitely there, and that hit me, and it was hurtful. But I think I was so emotionally starved for, you know, connection and just to be seen, like, you know, and I just don't think I got that. You know, I couldn't get that at home. And then at school, I mean, my friends were good, but I think I had already developed like a wall. So I think it's not like they could see me because I had already created a wall. I was
I don't know what that was.
Someone knock on the door?
It's Zia.
You said you created a wall,
yeah, thank you.
so you could start there.
Yeah. Is everything okay?
Oh, just go. You can't stay. We're recording.
Hey Zia, sorry.
I'm sorry. Okay. You gonna leave it? Yeah. For her? Yeah. Okay. You got anything else? No. Kavan's gonna say it. Kavan's gonna say
You want
it.
to
Thank you.
say a quick hi?
Hi, Kavan.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, man. I actually just wanted to say thank you.
No
Man,
worries.
thank you. Appreciate you know, the hiring, and I actually did get the job offer. So thanks, man.
Looking forward to working with you this summer.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna be fun.
All right, man.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
See you later, Zia.
He's looking more and more like JP every day.
I know. Yeah. Yeah. He probably tried to call, but
Mhm.
phones are.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, you guys can go ahead and just hop back in.
Okay. So I created a wall so I don't think people could really get in. I had already started to feel embarrassed, probably ashamed of my home and the differences there, and just knew how different my home was to my friend's home. I also think and I think I still struggle with this some, but I mean, I'm much better than where I used to be. I just had started to stop trusting people too. I think it's just with what I was seeing at home, and you know, like it was very hard to trust people, to feel safe with people. So I think I just kept people to some degree at arm's length, but I really yearned for it so much when I was in high school, and I think it was only when I became a teacher that I was really able, even though I had been in therapy, but when I became a teacher, that's when I was really on a path of healing, because it was like you can see kids, you connect with them, you like listen to them, and that just making me cry, but just that was just so important for me. So
Yeah, I found that healing before I even became a teacher. I was volunteering, like doing like aftercare, after school activities for a school down the street from my college, and you know, I'd volunteer there a couple of days a week, helping kids,
Yeah.
you know, play games and then do their homework. And then, you know, one of the directors or counselors there was like, man, you know, you ever thought about being a teacher? You really have a way in connecting with kids. And I didn't, like, it was innate. I didn't know what he was talking about. It was just something that I for some reason I knew if like I, you know, can see the kid, you know, connect with them in that way, that starts building a trust. You know,
but that was because of something you think you went through in your childhood, like was
yeah,
it speaking
yeah.
to?
I mean, like, I've shared this at, you know, I give talks for work here and there, and I often talk about that the first day of school was the worst day of my life every year. Every year, like since preschool or kindergarten, I can remember just the way that teachers would butcher my
your
name,
name.
and then from the get-go, you're already behind. So like, how many variations of my name of Kavan can they you know create, and kids hold on to that, you know. So like you're called that variation,
Right.
you know,
They
all day.
they run with that.
The
for
kids
sure.
will run with that.
Yeah.
Right. And so like for for me, as an educator now, for the teacher not to take the time to learn my name and see the impact of messing up my name and how that would ripple through the day for me, or even through, for a duration of time. That is not the type of educator environment that I would ever want for any of my students.
Right.
So I made it a point when I became a teacher is to learn their name, or ask them how to pronounce their name correctly, and ask the story of their name at times too. As I evolved, as I became more experienced, I started asking, took the time of asking the story of their name instead of jumping into curriculum and content. I found that how important it was to spend a significant amount of time learning who's in front of you.
Yeah. It's so interesting how our childhoods stay with us into adulthood. I mean, it makes sense, right? Biologically, developmentally, right? Because it's like because you're growing, you're evolving, your brain is developing, literally your bodies are developing and growing. But it's so interesting how those are, that they stay with us. And I think that it can go different ways. I think, if you've been hurt or traumatized, or, in some way there's been some hurt there, and you don't ever become really aware, you can't ever name it or become aware of it and then ideally heal it, like what that does to you. Versus if you are sort of fortunate and you are able to like find out, oh, this was really hurtful to me, this was really painful to me, but I'm able to like, find some healing through it, and then ideally also then freeing yourself from it. I find that to be very interesting, because I do wonder, I think I'm really very blessed, because I think I have been through a lot in my childhood, but I've been able to find healing. I've been through a lot of therapy, a lot of awareness. I think working with kids has helped a lot. So I've been able to find these avenues of just healing myself and therefore freeing myself as well. But I do wonder about people who don't, who cannot, who are not aware. And I don't mean to say it in a judgmental way. I really mean to say it in a way of like, I think there are people who are walking around who are caged and not as free as they could be, because they still are holding on to so much, whether they know it or not,
I really love how you phrase that. It's freeing.
Yeah.
And I'm realizing that's exactly what I went through too.
Yeah.
And it's...
Because I think about with my mom, who is still a very complicated person in my life. I mean, I wish I could say that like every conversation and interaction with her today is easy and beautiful and wonderful. That is just not the case. It is still, we still have tough moments. She will still say things where I'm like, what the fuck, woman? What the fuck? Like, like I would like to have peace with you and you're still saying fucked up shit to me, So where am I going with that? But nonetheless, like we are, that being said, like I am in such a better place with her. As much as I can still get triggered and really frustrated with her and sometimes even upset, I just know like there's a certain acceptance there of, I will never close the door on my mother. I know I love her and I'm committed to that love for her, even with all of it. I know I'm not perfect, as an adult, and I can do better too. I know that how much she has sacrificed for me. I know how much, I have a sense of how much she's been through as her own person, so I just think like I have the capacity to hold all of that because I've done healing, because I've been able to like heal stuff from my past, whereas I think if I wasn't able to, I just don't know if I would still be in relationship with her, you know, and I would, that, you know, makes me sad. So, yeah. Anyway.
No, you know, I do give I should give my mom a lot of credit right now. It's been you know, our relationship has been tumultuous, up until more recently though. And I think it's the same path that you have just shared about your own personal healing. You know, I think like I shared at the beginning, my childhood was complex, but I'm grateful for it.
Yeah.
Because I'm able, well, as an educator, I was able to see that the EQ, developing one's EQ, was far more important than developing the IQ. So like my entire educational philosophy has always been like around strengthening those social emotional skills to allow one to feel more secure of who they are and develop who they are. And then that in itself would then give them the courage to take risks, whether it's academically, artistically, athletically.
That's the freedom. Right,
the freedom. And then they can then certainly excel in whatever IQ they want to continue to follow. And that freedom of developing that approach for my students freed me as well. Because I was filling that void. And sharing with my students that they are worthy. In that regard, or with that, you know, it's taken me 50 years to have the courage to share, or to create boundaries with my mother. Develop space to have, you know, more vulnerable conversations. And I will give my mom credit. Like, she's in her late 70s, and even with the stigma of mental health of her generation and therapy, she is going to therapy because she wants to have the relationship that she didn't have with her sons. And it's still work. We're not completely there yet. But I truly love that my mom is doing that. And that is, I could see her unconditional love for her children too. Because of that effort.
That really is tremendous. So as hard as it is, and I'm sure there's still a lot there to work through, like, you know, you can offer that, you know, you can, you know, I'm used to saying bandwidth, but you can offer that space there for her to, that's a really big deal. Similar with my mom. I think my mother has acknowledged things more than she ever has. You know, she does share how much regret she has about the past and about our childhood. She's talked about that a lot with me. And so I know that is, you know, her, you know, she has to carry that burden. You know, I know she has a lot of regret about that. So, but I think what's great for me is that I don't feel a victim to that anymore. I think I felt a victim to it for a long. Excuse me, I feel so emotional. My husband's right. I always cry. I used to think that my story was my childhood. And I'm so grateful that it's not. You know? And like, yeah, I used to think that like that was everything I had to say in life and offer in life was just like how horrible it was, you know, how scary it was, how like loveless it was. But you know, I think thankfully because of all the therapy and all the work and, you know, learning how to name it, being a teacher and being able to like talk to those parts of me, you know, through my kids and students, I'm just like, wow, like you can really just be healed, be free from it. And And I think it's, that it's possible. I think that that's really what's great, is that it is possible to not carry that burden for the rest of your life. So.
No, I've known you for a number of years now, but what I admire about you has always been your resilience. But as we have these more intimate conversations, the trauma of your childhood has not defined you.
Yeah.
However, it has certainly been a part in shaping who you really are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you are able to recognize what was traumatic and heal from that, and then evolve into the woman, the partner, the mother, and daughter that who you now are at 50 years old.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Thank you. My husband's right. I always cry.
Well,
I'm like, no, I'm not going to cry. I always end up crying.
There's nothing wrong. You're in a safe space.
But I think for both of us,
Yeah.
it's great. I think it's great where we're in, we've talked about this before, but to be in this like next part of our lives. And I think we have more agency, more power, more love, more awareness to make these next years and decades the best that they possibly can be. And we're not burdened by things. We're not, we're figuring it out. We know how to figure it out. We're willing to figure it out. That I think is such a great gift. We don't have to let our past and our childhoods dictate our entire lives. That we get a say in how we want to live our life and how free we want to be. I think that's the gift of adulthood. I think that is truly the gift. We talk about adulting and all the bills we have to pay and the grind and all that. True. Very, very true. But the gift of adulthood is we get to decide how we live our life. And I think that is truly exciting.
Liberation and freedom.
Yeah.
I want to thank you for sharing your story today, and with all of us listeners out there too. It's hard to be vulnerable.
Yeah. Well, thank you to you too. Yeah. Truly.
And I want to thank my family.
Yeah.
I certainly want to thank my parents and my brother for helping me become who I am today as well.
Yeah. Great. I feel like I have to thank my family too.
I've just talked so much about them now, everybody knows, so I want to thank them. That's all.
Okay. Well, I think that's it.
Take care, everyone.
Bye. Okay.
I give you a hug. Oh, it was awesome. I think that was one of our best episodes. Honestly.
Gene, you're right. Oh, you're right. I always cry.